y'all, it's Alex and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be facing one of my art fears. I teased this possible series in my video last week of my college art, and I'm not starting off with realism as much as y'all probably would like that. The first one I'm tackling is still a little bit close to my normal art. I'm going to be doing all of my line art with brush pens. I've never really been a fan of brush pens. Honestly, sometimes Sakura Pigma Micron pens, when the nibs of them crush down a little bit too much, I have some issues with that, but I've wanted to test out doing my style in brush pens for a little while, just because I see a lot of people using them, and I always wonder, what would it be like for me to do that? And I have a few different brush pens. The first brush pen I tested out was a Pentel brush pen of some kind. I originally bought it to use for Inktober, but I'm not a fan of how transparent the ink is in it. It's not like blackest black. It's still almost more of a gray tone to me. Then the next two I have are Sakura Pigma brush pens, and then I have an entire set of these knockoff Sakura Pigma brush pens called Superior pens. I bought them on Wish when Wish started becoming a really big thing, and I only had a few colors of the Sakura Pigma brush pens, and they cost like $4 or $5 per, maybe up to $7, I don't remember at this point. And I saw this pack of all these different colors with obviously the Sakura Pigma picture, and I'm like, oh, I'm gonna get these. And instead I got the Superior markers. Have I done a video where I did only work with those? I honestly don't remember at this point. I've only been making content for a year and a half, but I'm already forgetting my own videos. If I do a video where I buy more art supplies off of Wish, these will feature heavily in that. My least favorite thing about those brush pens is that they have weird little hooks on the end of them. Sometimes I have to trim them off, but in the end, I ended up going with the Pentel brush pen because it's the only one that I have in black that's actually worthwhile. The black from the set of Superior markers is just kind of off. It's like an off gray. For the actual drawing that we're doing today, I will admit that this was kind of me flying blind. I just kind of went in with, okay, it's a girl. Okay, I don't feel like drawing hair today, so maybe she's gonna be bald. Maybe she's got this sort of animal companion with her, and oh, this deer now has fangs. Maybe it's a carnivorous deer. Maybe she's going outside to go play fetch with it with a bone. The concept behind this piece is not exactly there, and also neither is the pose. I feel like this one is pretty safe as far as pieces go, but then again, with trying out a new art supply, I guess I wanted to play it a little bit more safe with the actual concept I was working with. And the one thing I found out through working with this brush pen, well, there's two things I found out while working with this brush pen. One, this pen is not actually a felt tip, it's a whole bunch of tiny little hairs, and that's not the best for me. I felt like I got a lot more fuzzing on it than I had hoped for. And I do not have a steady hand. I don't know how artists like, I'm pretty sure it's Haikala on Instagram. I'm not sure how artists just go with a brush at their line art. The only parts that I'm really happy with in the line art of this piece are the bone she's holding and the bird skull on her hat. I think this just means that I need to draw more bones with brush pens, and that's about it. Everything else, it just varies a little bit too much for my taste. I think, however, despite it not being exactly my taste, I'm going to be doing this again at some point. Just because I want to get better at controlling my hand. Currently, with my Sakura Pigma PN that I've been loving to death recently, I've noticed that I press down very hard, and with this brush pen, you really couldn't press hard because otherwise that would completely ruin your line weight. So I think if I do a few practices with using brush pens, I think that'll help me build towards not straining the hell out of my arm, because doing that long term isn't good for anything. Another thing that I was tackling with this piece is I had, on a whim, while I was at Blick at one point, I think it might have been for my birthday, I think it might have been for Christmas. I have absolutely no recollection of when I actually bought this little tube watercolor, but I have only one Winsor & Newton tube watercolor, and I'll post on the screen what exactly this one is. I just know that it was in a little discount bin on the front counter. I just loved the color of it, and therefore I bought it. I hadn't touched it before doing this, and I was curious to see how tube watercolor would handle differently to the pre-wetted watercolors that I have from Ecoline, and especially on this B Paper Company mixed media paper. And I have to say, this handled a lot better than the other watercolor did. It didn't pebble as much as I feel the other watercolor did. That might just be, honestly, my criticism of the Ecoline watercolor in this sketchbook might just be me being too picky. But in the future, I'm hoping to get a lot more tube watercolors. This is, it's honestly been a hot second since I actually did this piece. I don't remember being extremely wowed by the Winsor & Newton tube watercolor, especially since it's a lighter tone than I expected. It was really hard for me to get a darker color, and I had to really layer it up and keep the watercolor pretty dilute, or not diluted, pretty saturated to be able to get deeper tones. But looking at it now, I wish I had more appreciation for it in the moment. And looking at the actual piece in front of me, now that it's had time to settle, I don't think this piece is the worst thing I've ever done, for sure, but I feel like this would have been a little bit better if I would have taken more time in the line art. I'm a chronic rusher. I'm very go, 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 and I feel like if I'm going to be doing line arts in brush pen and more work with watercolors, I feel like I need to try to find a good balance. But I wish I would have had some other colors to mix in with this watercolor. This really is a one color challenge, considering that I didn't have any black watercolor to mix in, and I didn't want to mix the Ecolines with the tube Winsor & Newtons. I didn't know exactly how that would work out. The only other thing I wish I would have done differently. I know I talk a lot about things that I wish I'd done differently, but that's honestly a lot of how I look back at my art. I wish I would have gone in with a different pen for the background. This little Pentel pen has this one single ink cartridge in it, and this is my last refill. I very narrowly got through shading the entire background of this piece, and you can see it's not exactly the most opaque of blacks, as opposed to the Daler Rowney black ink that I used on my Summer Witch Draw This in Your Style challenge. That ink is opaque. This stuff, you can see all of the brush marks, and you can see mostly where I was running out of ink, wherever it gets a little bit more sheer. I had a scare almost 2/3 of the way through this page that I didn't have any ink left in the pen. It was starting to just dry brush on me, and I honestly couldn't tell how much ink I had left inside the tube. And right down to this bottom corner, it really started dry brushing on me, and then it just miraculously finished out. I'm so glad that it didn't die halfway through, because I didn't want to change pens, though I probably should have. The Daler Rowney ink is a better consistency, and it would have given more contrast between the color of the hat and the color of the background. And so I have faced my first art fear, and I will be continuing to face said art fear for a little while, just so I can give myself more practice at it. So I have 2 art fears in mind next, and you guys will be able to vote in the top corner for which you would like me to use next. We've got the one-line challenge, where you can't pick up your pencil, or the realism, where I go out and I do a blind contour drawing. So go ahead and vote in the top corner for that, and I will be excited to see which fear I will be facing next. If you'd feel so inclined, hit that subscribe button and check me out on my other social media handles. Thanks, and I'll see y'all in the next one.